Hello friends, welcome back to day 2 of my 5-day takeover. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why I joined SeneGence, and as a disclaimer, I'm going to get a little real and personal with you guys over my journey of why and where I'm at now. So if you're watching this on a replay, please put me a heart in the comments so that I know that you guys watched this video and heard my story. Okay, so we're going to go back to 4.5 years ago, actually even longer, because it was probably closer to 4.5, 5 years ago, the first time that I was ever introduced to the product. And it's funny because I remember seeing it shared, and as someone who, if you guys know me, you already know this, I was a tomboy, I was a college athlete. Like, I grew up, fishing and hiking and doing sports and very outdoorsy. I rode horses, and I never did anything with skincare. I never did anything with makeup. And so it's funny that I even decided to try it in the first place. And if I'm being honest, I actually was just going to give my friend the money for a starter kit and have her gift it to someone else, because I was like, I'm not gonna wear it, but I like supporting small businesses. So I told that to my husband, and he was like, girl, just try it. You always do everything the same, because I am very structured and planned and a perfectionist. At least I will say that's how I was. I'm a recovering perfectionist now. But he was like, you always do everything the same. Why not try something new? And what's the worst that could happen? Maybe you actually like it. And if not, you ended up supporting the business either way, which was your original goal. So that's kind of how I was introduced to product and my journey to trying LipSense for the first time. So from there, I tried it. Honestly, the first time I tried it, I scrubbed my lips raw because it said to clean your lips. And then when I put the LipSense on, it burned like crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, how's everybody loving this? Like, what on earth did I do wrong? Turns out you're not supposed to scrub your lips raw. Gently clean them, then apply the lip color. So there was a lot of user error and trial and error just even from the get-go. So I'm sharing all this because I want you to know I didn't have the traditional background to joining that most people did. I, had zero experience and in the industry as a whole, with makeup and skincare as a whole. And then even the first time that I tried my first product, I didn't apply it correctly and didn't have a great experience. So I will say one thing about myself, though, is I'm very willing to acknowledge or own or accept that I don't know everything. So if I see, people loving a certain thing or talking about it and I'm not having that same experience, I'm willing to say, what did I do wrong? Maybe I didn't do something right. Let me try and learn and figure out, how this actually works. And so I'm really happy that I did that, because after learning how to apply the LipSense properly, I was amazed at how well that it stayed on. And I would go by the mirror and I would forget that I had applied it in the morning and it was still there. And so that was crazy to me. I'm like, what? Any other time that I had worn lipstick, which was like 3 times in my life, every single time it ended up on my teeth. So I wore it to a football game once and then went to the bathroom and it was on my teeth. I wore it to a meeting once, went to the bathroom, it was on my teeth. And I can't remember the first time that I wore it, but it also ended up on my teeth. I don't even think that one I made it to the event, but I was talking in the car and then looked in the car mirror and it was on my teeth. So lipstick and me were not friends. So this one, when it actually stayed on, and I was like, wow, I forgot that I put it on because I couldn't feel it on my lips and it wasn't getting off of my teeth. That was a huge deal for me. So from there, I wanted to get some more colors and glosses and things to try. And actually, it was presented to me right then to, hey, if you're going to be buying more colors, you might as well sign up for the discount. It's kind of like a Costco membership, and you can get these products at a discount. And just totally honest, I said no. I rejected it straight up. I'm like, no, I just want to buy it. I don't want to sign up for anything. I'd rather just buy it. But then, little voice in the back of my head is like, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to get it for a discount. Now, the other part of my story about why I joined and going back to 4.5 years ago, I was working full-time as an athletic trainer, which is already a 6 days a week job. And my job typically starts when everyone else's ends. So I am not an early morning worker. I am a late night worker. So I cover all of these sporting events and practices and games. So whenever they finish is when I finish. And I was also teaching 5 days a week. On top of that, every single morning I had class at 8 a.m. that I was teaching. And on top of that, I was also cleaning houses for a company called Handy. I was fitting that into like the nooks and crannies of, you know, in between teaching and athletic training, and then maybe on a Sunday or a Saturday when I finished, you know, the game or the practice that I was covering. And then I was also doing per diem athletic training work. Per diem work is basically somebody needs you to cover something, and so they pay you hourly to come cover that event. So I had a lot of things going on, and on top of that, I was planning my own wedding. And we were trying to figure out how on earth we were going to pay for our wedding, right? Because weddings are very expensive, and we were having to pay for everything out of pocket. And so we're like, okay, we need to come up with X amount of thousands of dollars to be able to pay for the venue, pay for the food, pay for the photographer, pay for the dress. You guys know the drill. If you've been married, it's expensive. So we're going through, okay, we need like X amount of dollars to do this. I'm already pretty capped out. I have a full-time salary job. I'm teaching on top of that. I'm doing per diem work. I'm cleaning houses. So when it came to like doing a business or adding something else to my plate, it did not make sense, right? I'm already maxed out time-wise, and I'm already like, if we need X amount of thousands of dollars for the wedding and we're here, we're already behind on how much money we need to be able to pay for the wedding, you know? So there was a lot of things going on, so it really did not make sense. And I want to share that and focus on that, because sometimes the best things for you can be the things that don't necessarily make sense, right? Because on paper, it didn't make sense at all. But after I started thinking about like, well, maybe I could just sign up for the discount to get these colors because I do want them anyways, I had this little voice in the back of my head that was just kind of like nudging me for the business. And I joined an opportunity event, and I listened to some other women kind of like share their stories about where they were when they started and where they are at now, and in what the business did for them. And it was that potential that I'm like, I am so overworked right now, and honestly, I'm underpaid, and that's just, I mean, I think a lot of us are, right? And that's just, if you're an athletic trainer, you know that's kind of the name of the game. But I'm like, something has to give, because I don't have any time to do anything that I enjoy. I don't really have time to live life. And the hardest thing for me was I made it. I did all the things that you're supposed to do. I worked really hard in high school and got a scholarship to college for track. And I worked really hard to get 2 degrees in my undergrad, and then worked really hard to go to grad school and got another degree, a master's degree. And then from there, I got my career job. So I, according to society, checked off all the boxes of the things that you're supposed to do. So now here I am. I have all my degrees. I have my career job, and I'm still having to teach. I'm still having to clean houses. I'm still having to do these extra things. And I'm like, is this really going to be my life for the rest of my life? And I think that was where that potential of, maybe it didn't work out. Maybe I couldn't sell anything, because think about it. I didn't wear it. I didn't use it. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm like, I have 0 experience. I'm not prepared for this, but I'm like, how hard can it be to learn these things? Like, with all the time and effort that I put into earning those degrees, and those, like, I'm responsible for saving people's lives, okay? If somebody has a cervical spine fracture at a football game, I'm the one that's keeping them in line and trying to keep them from being paralyzed or killed. So, like, if I can learn how to do that, how much harder can it be to learn how to apply makeup and how to use skincare? And we have Google, we have Facebook, we have coaches, we have YouTube. There's so many different resources available to us. So I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, how hard can it be to really learn these things that are actually so simple compared to other things, right? And then the other attraction was, as someone who grew up, and if you guys know my mom, you know that she's like the original mom boss. So she makes everything by hand. And so I grew up having to buy the raw materials and buy the packaging and create your own labels and do all of that. And that's a lot of work. So the other thing was, I can sell these products and I don't actually have to make them. Like, I don't have to buy all the ingredients and the bottles and the packaging and put them all together. Like, they're already made and handed to me, and then I just have to share them. So that was also like very attractive, because that removed some of those barriers. So I definitely wouldn't have the time to make the products myself. So those are the kind of things that were going on in the back of my head. And ultimately, I think I was just really dissatisfied that I did the thing. Like, I followed the status quo. I did everything that you're supposed to do, and come to find out that's not the life environment that I want. I don't want to work myself into a grave, and I'm a workaholic. Working is my comfort zone. I will put that out there right now. But when it comes down to it, like, I want to be able to raise a family, and I want to be able to raise my kids. I want to be able to see my family, you know, across the country and be able to go home and visit. And I really was having zero time for myself, zero time for family, zero time for friends. And it was kind of like that dissatisfaction that I'm like, I know, even though this is like, you know, it doesn't make sense and this is like the craziest time for me to do anything or add anything else to my plate. So if you're watching this and you can relate to that, give me some hearts. If you can relate to that, even though it didn't make sense, I was like, the potential gain for me is worth trying, because after reading the compensation plan, after seeing the success stories, I'm like, if even a tiny bit of that could happen for me, even if I could be able to stop cleaning houses and give up teaching and those type of things, that would allow me so much more time, because those things take me out of the home. And this business you run from home. You can run it from your phone. You can do it when you're traveling. You can do it wherever. So that is ultimately where I was at and why I decided to join, because something had to give. And flash forward, I was able to stop teaching. I remember going into work and saying, I'm not teaching next year. And it's because I was making more money with my SeneGence business than I was from teaching. And that was a huge deal for me. That gave me so much time back in my life. Because think about it. If all practices and games are in the afternoon, but I'm having to teach at 8 a.m. every single day. You know, now I have to get up at 6, and a lot of times I'm not getting home till 6, 7, 8, 9, depending on how late the night game is going. Think about that day, and then think about going 6 days a week. So it allowed me to stop teaching, and it also allowed me to stop cleaning houses. I haven't cleaned a house in years now because I don't need to, and that is huge. And the other thing is I don't want to, because I have something that I can do where I can sit down in front of my phone and teach people how to use skincare, how to use makeup, how to run a business. And that is going to be a much more rewarding payback for me than going out and cleaning somebody else's houses. Is also way more enjoyable and way more fun, right? So a lot of those things that were what was pushing me, even in a time that didn't make sense. And same thing with the wedding. I was able to sell enough products to pay off the majority of our wedding expenses, which is also huge, and was something that I was like, you know, it was a dream. Like, can this really help? I'm going to go for it. And, you know, flash forward to today, I am so thankful that I decided to, you know, take that risk of trying something new and putting myself out there where I had zero experience. And it really, really did pay off. So I just wanted to kind of share like my heart and my story a little bit, because I think a lot of us, once we get into our career position, sometimes we realize, wait a minute, this isn't actually all it's cracked up to be, especially as women. Like, I don't actually want to have to be away from the home 6 days a week and have a babysitter raise my kids, right? That's something that has always been in the back of my head, that like, I want to be able to raise my kids. I want to be able to be home. I don't want my husband to have to be a single parent because I'm gone 6 days a week, you know? So these are a lot of things, big life things that are in my head. The other thing is being able to see my family in Washington, like I mentioned earlier. So that's something that I've been able to use, you know, my profits from this business to fly home. I flew home more times this past year than I have since I've lived in Florida. And it's amazing because I was able to cover all of that with my business. So I flew home in, August, then April, then June, and July. So 4 times in a year, and, you know, not having to worry about how expensive flights were and travel expenses and things like that. So it has made such a beautiful impact. And I, again, I'm so thankful that I decided to do something that didn't make sense, because it ended up being the most sensible thing to do, because it replaced all those other things that were taking away from me versus giving to me. And one of the most important things you can give yourself is time, personal development, support, friendship, coaching, and then something that you enjoy. So I hope that that touched some of you guys. I hope that maybe some of you guys can relate to that. And the main thing is, like I mentioned, I keep saying this, it doesn't always make sense, because it really doesn't. But when you can see the potential, and like the possibilities, sometimes that has to outweigh staying where you are. Because the longer you stay where you are, like if you say you're uncomfortable but you don't do anything to change it, then you are actually saying, I'm okay with my life staying like this for forever. And I wasn't. And that was ultimately why I decided to do something, you know, completely outside my comfort zone. And the thing is, I learned how to apply makeup. I learned how to use skincare. I learned how to do videos, and it wasn't always easy. I shared this the other day. I have had so many flops. I have failed forward. You know, I hated my videos. I hated my pictures. I had horrible lighting, horrible setup, horrible quality, everything. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I had issues with packaging because I didn't know what I was doing. I've had issues with hosting parties because I didn't know what I was doing, but I've learned, and the best way that I learned was through failing forward and being like, okay, this didn't work, so then let me adjust and try this. So I would just encourage you to be willing to, if you don't like your current situation, or if you know that there is something greater that you want to aspire to, or there's a better situation that you would like to have in your life, that you'll be willing to try something, even if it goes against the status quo, even if it's scary, even if it's risky. Go for it and give it a shot. And that's one thing that I have to say about SeneGence is the risk is so freaking low, especially this month in September. It's free to sign up, but at the end of the day, it's literally, you are like a wholesale customer / boutique. So you purchase at wholesale prices and you resell at retail. That could not be more clear. That could not be more basic and simple. And that's how most businesses run. So if you can understand that your job is to get these products at wholesale prices and then sell for retail, and then you keep the profits. Like, you don't have to make anything, you don't have to create anything, you are just responsible for sharing and putting the name out there and the products out there. Once you just focus on that at the most basic level, it makes it also easy, because now you're just looking for new and different and better ways and more effective ways to share what you're doing. And it's the same thing when it comes to sharing the business opportunity, which is showing people what you do, sharing your heart, sharing why you joined, and showing and sharing how it's impacted you and improved your life. So I hope again that was helpful for you guys, and maybe you guys learned some things that you didn't know. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your day. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about how you actually earn money with SeneGence and just kind of break down that a little bit more. All right, so have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Bye.